A library card, bent and faded, with the name Sophie Bennett, printed in careful 11-year-old handwriting. That's what the construction worker found wedged between concrete blocks when Riverside Public Library's basement was being renovated in 2024. When investigators checked missing persons records, they found the match. Sophie Bennett, age 11, disappeared from this exact library in 1986. The card had been there for 38 years, just one floor below where thousands of people had checked out books, completely unaware that a girl was trapped in a space directly beneath their feet. Before we begin, subscribe to uncover the stories they tried to bury and ensure no case is ever forgotten. Riverside Public Library was located in the small town of Riverside, Massachusetts, on Main Street. It was in the center of town, next to the post office and town hall. Built in 1952, it had served as the heart of the community for 34 years. It was a two-story brick building, classic American library architecture. The facade had large white columns, thick wooden doors with bronze letters reading Riverside Public Library. Inside smelled of books, quiet, peaceful. Thousands of books lined long wooden shelves, everything from history to novels, science to poetry. Natural light filtering through windows illuminated reading tables. The library was very important to the townspeople. Riverside was a small town, population 5,000, everyone knew each other. The resources of big cities weren't available here, but there was the library. Children researched homework. Teachers found materials. Adults checked job listings. Elderly people read newspapers every morning. Every Saturday morning at 10 a.m., there was story time for children. The librarian would read from a large book. 20 to 30 children would sit cross-legged on the colorful carpet, listening as if spellbound. The library wasn't just a building. It was the community's meeting place, information center, a safe haven. The Bennett family had lived in Riverside for generations. Sophie's grandfather, George Bennett, was one of the town's first doctors, settled there in the 1950s. Father Richard Bennett was 42, a math teacher at the local high school. He had attended Riverside High himself, now taught in those same classrooms. Students loved him. He was patient, fair, and gave time to every student. Mother Patricia Bennett was 39, a nurse. She worked at Riverside Community Hospital, the town's only hospital, a small 50-bed facility. Patricia worked in maternity, had delivered most of the babies in town. They had one child, 11-year-old Sophie. Sophie Bennett was a bright, curious, book-loving girl. She was in 6th grade at Riverside Middle School. Her grades were perfect, on the honor roll every term. She excelled especially in history and literature. Her teacher, Mr. Davis, said, "Sophie is one of my best students. She doesn't just memorize. She asks questions, thinks deeply, analyzes." Sophie's greatest passion was reading. Her love started when she was very young. At 3, her mother read to her. At 5, she started reading on her own. Now at 11, she finished 2 to 3 books a week. Every Saturday, she'd go to the library, return finished books, check out new ones. Her room was filled with books, novels, history, biography, science fiction. She read everything. Before bed, she always read for at least an hour. Sophie's favorite place was Riverside Library. She first went there at 6 years old, holding her mother's hand. Since that day, she was in love. She'd outgrown the children's section, now checked out books from the adult section. Librarian Helen Morris loved her. Sophie is our most loyal, most enthusiastic member, comes twice a week, stays for hours, chooses books like they're old friends. Sophie carried her library card in her wallet. To her, it was a treasure, an ID card. On the card was her own name, member number, and the library logo. To Sophie, It was the most valuable card in the world. September 1986. School had just started. Sophie was in 6th grade, excited because she was now among the big kids. Social studies teacher Mrs. Parker had given a big project the first week. Choose a topic from American history that interests you. Do detailed research. Use at least 5 sources. Write a 10-page report. Present to the class. Due date was October 20th. Students had 3 weeks. Sophie had immediately chosen her topic, the women's suffrage movement. It interested her because she wanted to read about strong women, learn how they fought for rights. Mrs. Parker had approved the topic. Great choice, Sophie. A very important historical movement. September 27th, 1986. Saturday was sunny. Cool autumn day. Tree leaves had turned red, yellow, orange. Massachusetts autumn was beautiful. Sophie said at breakfast, "Mom, I'm going to the library today. I'll find books for my project." About the women's suffrage movement, Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, those women. Patricia said, "Okay, sweetie, but I'll come pick you up at 3 p.m. Don't forget. Library closes at 5 p.m. Is 2 hours enough?" Sophie nodded. "Yes, Mom, enough. I'll find 5 or 6 books, read them at home." At 3:12 p.m., Sophie walked to Riverside Library. Their house was 10 minutes from the library via Main Street. It was a safe town. Children could walk alone. No one worried. Sophie wore a blue wool sweater, jeans, her backpack had notebook, pen, library card, and a small water bottle. When she entered the library, Helen Morris was sitting at the front desk, processing book returns. Helen was 52, had been head librarian for 20 years, loved the library. When she saw Sophie, her face lit up. She smiled. "Hello, Sophie. Research again? Another great project?" "Yes, Mrs. Morris. I need books for my social studies project about the women's suffrage movement, Susan B. Anthony and the other women." "Great topic. Check the history section. American history books are at shelf 320. In the biography section, you'll also find books about Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Lucy Stone, shelves 920 inches. Thank you, Mrs. Morris." Sophie put her bag on a chair by the front desk, put her library card in her jeans pocket, started searching for books. The library was quite crowded that afternoon. Saturdays were always like this. Working families came on weekends. According to records that day, between 3 and 4 p.m., a total of 42 people had entered the library or were already inside. Children, adults, elderly, everyone quietly searching for books, reading, taking notes. Everyone was respectful. In the library, people always spoke in whispers. Sophie passed the children's section, went to the adult section and back. History shelves were at the back of the building, end of the long corridor. No windows, a bit dark, but comfortable reading tables. Shelves were tall, books to the ceiling tightly packed. Sophie came to shelf 320, American history section. With her finger, she slowly scanned the names on book spines. American Revolution, Civil War, Women's Suffrage Movement. She'd found it. There were 3 books on the topic. She pulled one out. Title, Votes for Women, The Struggle for Suffrage. Perfect. At 3:15 p.m., Helen could see Sophie from the front desk. The girl was searching through shelves, sometimes pulling out a book and looking at the first pages. Everything was normal, a routine Saturday afternoon. At 3:18 p.m., Patricia Bennett came to the library to pick up Sophie. She entered through the door, looked at Helen, smiled. "Hello, Helen. I'm here to pick up Sophie." As usual, she must be lost among the books. Helen looked around, didn't see Sophie. Yes, she was in the back shelves just now. History section at shelf 320. She should still be there. Hasn't come back yet. Patricia walked toward the back. "Sophie? Sweetie, time to go." No answer. She entered the corridor, came to the history section, looked between the shelves. Sophie wasn't there. Looked at the tables, empty. Went to biography section. Maybe she'd gone there. Number. Sophie? Patricia raised her voice, now starting to worry. No answer. The entire corridor was empty. No one else was there. Patricia quickly returned, said to Helen, I can't find Sophie. Where is she? Did she go to the bathroom? Her voice trembling, worried. Helen immediately stood up, brows furrowed. She didn't go to the bathroom. I would have seen. She was there just now. I definitely saw her 5 minutes ago, maybe 10 minutes ago. Let's search together. Maybe she moved to another section. The two women began systematically searching the library. Every shelf, every corner, under every table, behind every window. Entire first floor, then second floor. Bathrooms checked, empty. Any closed door, closet, everywhere opened, checked. Sophie couldn't be found. At 3:25 p.m., Helen made an announcement to everyone in the library, her voice tense. Attention, please. Everyone listen. We're looking for an 11-year-old girl named Sophie Bennett, wearing blue wool sweater, jeans. Has anyone seen her in the last 10 minutes? Please come to the front desk. Everyone shook their heads, turned around, whispered. No one had seen her. An elderly man said, I saw a girl child in the back shelves. She was looking at books, but I don't remember how many minutes ago. Then she left, I think. There were no other witnesses. Patricia was in full panic. Her breathing quickened. Where's Sophie? Helen? She didn't leave the library, did she? She must be inside. Helen checked security records. The library only had a sign-in/sign-out log at the front door. No camera system. In 1986, small-town libraries didn't use security cameras. It wasn't considered necessary. According to records Sophie had entered at 3:12 p.m., her signature was there. Since then, no one had signed out. Sophie should still be in the building. At 3:30 p.m., Helen called the police. I'm calling Riverside Police Department. Emergency. Missing child at the library. 11-year-old girl, can't find her family, should be inside the building, but can't find her. Riverside Police Department was small. Only 5 officers, 1 chief. Chief Robert Wilson and 2 officers arrived within 5 minutes. He listened to the situation, quickly surveyed the library. Not in exit records entered. Single door, no other exit. Girl should be here, Robert said seriously. The entire police force was mobilized. 5 officers meticulously searched every corner, behind every shelf, inside every closet, under every table. Windows checked, all locked, unbroken. Basement door checked, heavy metal door locked. Only Helen had the key. Basement always locked. Kids can't go down. Dangerous, Helen said. She brought the key. They opened the door, went downstairs. The basement was old, dark, damp. Wooden stairs creaked. Boiler room was there. Large old boiler, pipes a meter in diameter, old furniture, broken chairs, archive boxes, books from the 1950s. They searched everywhere, scanned with flashlights. Sophie wasn't there. At 6 p.m., the FBI got involved. Missing child could be interstate issue, federal matter. Special Agent Mark Henderson came from Boston office. 2-hour drive. Serious, experienced agent. Town residents were shocked. Nothing like this had ever happened. 42 people questioned one by one. No one had seen anything. No suspicious situation. That night, the search continued. Entire town was scanned. Volunteers joined. Houses, yards, empty buildings, forest area, riverbank. Sophie's photo was broadcast on local TV, in newspapers. 11-year-old girl missing from library. Mysterious disappearance in Riverside. FB. I examined the library in detail. Building plans obtained from Town Hall. Built 1952. 2 floors. Basement. Architect notes. Contractor information. Hidden room, tunnel, void, Nothing in the plans. Boiler room checked again. Walls knocked on. Sound tests done. Empty old boiler. Hot water pipes. Old electrical panel. No hidden space visible. First week hopes were high. Maybe Sophie went somewhere. Maybe a relative took her. Maybe she lost her memory. But there was no trace. No clues. Second week FBI reduced resources. There were other cases. Third week the case went cold. Detective Wilson took the case file, promised, "I'll never forget. I'll review it every year." Patricia and Richard were devastated. Their lives stopped. Patricia quit nursing, searched for Sophie every day, posted posters, never gave up. Richard suffered silently, continued teaching, but his eyes were always empty, students noticed. Riverside Library was never the same. People started to fear, called it cursed building. Visitor numbers decreased. Families didn't want to send children. Helen Morris felt deep guilt. I was responsible. I couldn't protect her. How did I lose her? She cried. Got psychological treatment. She retired early in 2000. Still couldn't forget Sophie. Thought about her every day. Patricia died of cancer in 2015. Her last words were, "I couldn't see Sophie, but now I'm going to her." Richard died in 2020, alone, heartbroken, one morning in his sleep. In spring 2024, the town of Riverside decided to renovate the library. The building was aging, heating system had failed, electricity was dangerous. In May, Morgan Construction Company started work, complete renovation project. In early June, workers were working in the basement. They would remove the old boiler, install modern central heating. Worker Carlos Mendez, 35, was an experienced craftsman. While demolishing the wall behind the boiler, he noticed something strange. Wall was thicker than normal. When he knocked, it sounded hollow. Inside seemed empty. "Boss Mike, look here. This wall is weird. Sounds hollow," Carlos said. Foreman Mike Foster was 50, 30 years experienced contractor. He came, knocked on the wall with his hand, put his ear to it, listened. "Yes, definitely sounds hollow. Should normally be solid brick." "What do the plans say?" They looked at the 1952 plans. This wall was shown as normal, solid wall, but it was hollow. They drilled a small section of the wall, removed bricks, shone flashlight inside. There was a narrow void, about 5 feet wide, 8 feet deep. Dark, airless, old smell. Carlos looked inside carefully, held flashlight to every corner. On the floor he saw a skeleton, small, leaning against wall in sitting position. Next to it a backpack, 3 or 4 books, a water bottle, and between concrete blocks, wedged in the corner, faded but readable library card. Carlos carefully pulled it out, blew off dust, read, "Sophie Bennett, member number 347, Riverside Public Library." "My God," Carlos said, voice trembling. This is that missing girl from 1986, the girl everyone searched for." Mike immediately called police. "Riverside Police, very urgent. In library basement, in boiler room, behind a wall we found a skeleton. Child. Library card says Sophie Bennett, the 1986 case." Within an hour, police, FBI, forensics, everyone was there. Area declared crime scene, yellow tape put up. Forensics team examined the void. Skeleton belonged to an 11 to 12-year-old girl. Backpack opened. Inside was a notebook. On it written, "Sophie Bennett, 6th grade social studies project." Books were about American history, women's suffrage. All had Riverside Library stamp, dated 1986. DNA tests conducted, compared with samples from Bennett family distant relatives. Definitive result, Sophie Bennett. On the wall of the void, written in ballpoint pen, Sophie's handwriting, door closed. Can't open it. Pushing, but won't open. Dark. So scared. "Help! People above, I hear footsteps. I'm shouting, but nobody hears. Please. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. I was just looking for books for my project. About women. So thirsty. Water's gone. Books are with me, but can't read anymore. Too dark. Mom, I love you. I'm sorry. Sophie. FBI investigated how the void was made. Who made it? In 1952, when building was constructed, boiler room construction and basement work done by Smith Construction Company. Company owner Thomas Smith died in 1998, but one former employee was still alive. Leonard Price, 78 years old, living retired in Florida. FBI found Leonard, went to his house, questioned him. Old man initially said he didn't remember. Too much time had passed. But when shown photos, plans, he slowly started remembering, finally talked. In 1952, I was a young worker, 22 years old. Thomas had special, secret projects. We made a hidden space, secret room, in boiler room, behind the wall. He said, might be useful in future, for storage. I didn't question it, boss ordered. Pay was good. But years later, I learned Thomas was strange, dangerous. FBI comprehensively investigated Thomas Smith's background. His file was horrifying. In 1945, arrested for child abuse, served 3 years, released in 1948. In 1952, got library construction contract. Nobody checked his background. Procedures were loose back then. He'd made the hidden void, waited to use it someday. But how did Thomas take Sophie in 1986? He was old then, 70 years old, retired. FBI examined records, phone logs, everything. Shocking truth emerged. On September 27, 1986, that very day, Thomas came to library for heating system inspection. Showed fake ID to Helen, said he was from Smith Heating Company. Helen was busy, didn't check the man, gave him basement key. Thomas went to basement, opened hidden void door, waited inside. While Sophie was searching books in back shelves, accidentally approached basement door. Thomas grabbed her, covered her mouth, brought her downstairs, put her in void, closed door, returned key to Helen, left building. Entire operation took less than 10 minutes. Sophie tried to survive in the void for days. She had small water bottle and backpack. Lasted 1 to 2 days. No food. Screamed. Pounded, but thick concrete walls muffled sound. Air circulation almost non-existent. Oxygen slowly decreased. Kept books with her. Tried to take notes, but no light. Finally died from oxygen deprivation and dehydration. According to forensics report, she may have lived 4 to 5 days. Thomas Smith died in 1998. Natural causes, never tried, unpunished. In July 2024, Sophie Bennett's remains were buried with ceremony. Patricia and Richard were no longer alive, but Sophie's Uncle James and Aunt Carol organized ceremony. Riverside community attended en masse. Hundreds of people, former teachers, old friends, townspeople. Small white coffin covered with white tulips and purple hyacinths, Sophie's favorite colors. Uncle James spoke through tears. Sophie, you were lost 38 years ago. Our family searched for you every day, never gave up. But today you're finally coming home. Your mother Patricia and Father Richard are waiting for you in heaven. Now you're together, at peace. Sophie Bennett. Memorial Reading Room was built in Riverside Library's basement. Special reading area for children, comfortable colorful chairs, shelves full of books, white marble plaque on wall. Sophie Bennett, 1975 to 1986. Book lover, learning lover, curious, brave, never to be forgotten. This story shows that even the safest, most peaceful places can hide dark secrets. Riverside Library looked quiet, knowledgeable, safe. But underneath, beneath the feet, a monster had set a trap years before, waited patiently. Sophie was an innocent victim, just a girl searching for books for school project, wanting to learn. Truth emerged 38 years later. Justice came very, very late, but finally came. Sophie finally found peace, reunited with her family. No forgotten story is truly forgotten forever.